Hi, my name's RJ. The topic that I chose to explore was how families are affected by mass incarcerations. The key thinker that I chose to explore was Bruce Western, and the reason why I chose Bruce Western was because his name kept popping up again and again and again. He wrote a lot of books and plenty of articles on how families are affected by mass incarceration in general, and just family dynamics of just results of being in a family where mass incarceration and incarceration takes place. And so, having said that, what his research was really focused on was a parent, mom or dad, that was supporting the family that ends up being incarcerated. Doesn't really look at a child being incarcerated in the family, doesn't look at extended family being incarcerated, but really focuses on mom or dad that was supporting the family being incarcerated. Not only does he do that, but other people do that as well when it comes to mass incarceration and how it affects family. And when it comes to the effects, whether it was Bruce Western or other people, other scholars that explored this, there were just effects all over the place. The three main bodies, if you will, or the three main parties that were affected was number one, the incarcerated, number two, the spouse or the partner of the incarcerated, and then number three, a child or the children of the incarcerated. So for the incarcerated, they were infected, number one, physically, whether it be in the long term, getting diseases, dealing with mental issues such as depression, anxiety, stress, and then thirdly, financially, where they weren't able to get a job once they are released from their incarceration. And if they got a job, they were losing out as much as 30% of what they were making before. So those, again, were just some of the effects for the incarcerated. The second party that was looked at in this research was the spouse or the partner, similar to the incarcerated, dealing with a lot of issues where it was physical issues, again, disease, just mental issues such as like depression and stress, and then even financially as well, only because they lost out on somebody who was supporting the family, and then, excuse me, they now have to support the incarcerated. So whether it be having to make collect calls, making sure that there was money in their account while they're incarcerated, and even visiting, those were just some of the burdens that were now placed on the partner or spouse of the incarcerated. And then thirdly, the child or children of the incarcerated were affected. And what was interesting with them was if the incarcerated parent was incarcerated at a young age of the child, they were more likely to act out, express it, have tantrums. But the older they got, the more likely they were to internalize these issues. So whether it was the process of incarceration just dragged out to where they got older, or if the parent was incarcerated when the child was older, they were more likely to internalize. And so that, combined with a prone to just having this criminal lifestyle for the child, were just two of the many effects that the child had to deal with. And in terms of a biblical theological analysis with this, I was looking at the Kingdom Ethics book, and in chapter 11, it's talking about marriage and divorce, and it looks at, in one of the sections, 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Now, with mass incarcerations, a lot of the families stick it out. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, before I get into that, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, Paul's talking about marriage. And if you're with somebody and you're married to them, one of the things he says is, hey, look, just fight for it and just stay married. And if they're not a Christian or if they have different beliefs than you, stay in the marriage. But if you separate, let it be so. And going back to what I said about how when families are incarcerated and a parent's incarcerated, that they're more likely to stick it out rather than divorce, the reality is that there's so many effects that are going on that the marriage isn't what it was or what it used to be, and the family isn't what it was and what it used to be. And so when Paul talks about this idea of if they separate, let it be so, um, personally, I wouldn't have an issue in general, but because of mass incarcerations, there's more issues because again, there's so many effects that deal with it. And so, if there were better reentry programs for the incarcerated, if there were better transitional programs, educational programs that were able to help the incarcerated get back on their feet physically and mentally, then this notion of just letting the marriage be so, whether it was separating or just sticking it out for the sake of the family, would be something I would be content with. And so those are just some of the thoughts and some of the ideas that I had with this. There's plenty of more that I want to talk about and explore. And so, really would appreciate your input and anything else you would like to add. But again, I'm really excited to be working with all you. And yeah, that's what I'm going to be talking about.